Of Martial Law with Marshall Chriswell. This radio program intended to be for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law is constantly changing. The information may not be complete or correct depending on the date and your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of these differences, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. And that would be your Marshall Chriswell, who's on the line with us this morning. Marshall, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you with us here today. And it's a pretty exciting day because it's another installment of Last Wills and Testaments of the Rich and Famous. One of our favorite segments.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. It's a good way to, we often talk about, different tips and advice for your estate planning, and it's a good, just real world kind of practical way to look at those things.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if they're rich and famous or just an ordinary folk like you and me. Everybody has to deal with issues with their estates at some point or another, and if you don't, then somebody else has to deal with it after you're gone. So let's talk about another one, and this one is one that has been in the news lately, Aretha Franklin's will. What's going on with it?
The Queen of Soul.
Mm-hmm.
So Aretha Franklin passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2018. She was 76 years old, and she left behind 4 sons. And what was valued to be that time at about an $18 million estate.
Mm-hmm.
When she first passed, her sons, it appeared she had no will, and the sons all agreed, okay, she has no will, we're going to split everything equally. Mm-hmm. Her longtime personal attorney had said that there wasn't a will. So everything seemed to be going okay back in 2018, and the sons agreed that they were going to appoint a neutral family member, a cousin, to serve as administrator of the estate, so that none of them, so that somebody else would be doing this. So they all agreed on that. That was great. Well, this cousin, this woman, she, as an executor is responsible to do is going through Aretha's home and gathering her things and going through her personal papers, and she finds 2 handwritten documents. One was a more formal, although it was handwritten and signed by Aretha, and it was notarized, and it appeared to be a last will and testament. It was multiple pages. It was signed on each page. She found it in a cabinet in the dining room, I think. Mm-hmm. And that was written in 2010. And she also found in a spiral-bound notebook under a couch cushion in the living room another document, which was much more informal. It had lots of notes in the margins and things scratched out, but it was signed at the end. And there was it was interesting in the testimony, there was some contention that it was her signature because Aretha used a smiley face for her the first letter of her name in that document. So that was part of the contention. But so we had these 2 documents that were found, both handwritten, neither written by an attorney, and they both had different schemes of how things were going to be distributed, and each one favored one son over the others. Mm-hmm. And there was also a series of voicemails that were presented at the hearing that were left for an estate planning attorney. She had called an estate planning attorney and left several voicemails in 2018, just prior to her passing, saying that she was revoking all of her prior wills, and this is what she wanted him to draft for her. Mm-hmm. So this was presented by one of the sons as her oral will. That was thrown out immediately by the judge because there's no such thing as an oral will in Michigan, where this took place. She lived outside Detroit, or here in Pennsylvania, or anywhere else that I'm aware of. Yeah. So that was thrown out. But you have these 2 wills that are these 2 documents that are both purported to be wills, and ultimately the judge did decide that the later will, the one that was stuffed under the couch cushion, was the will that controlled, and her youngest, Aretha's youngest son, is going to inherit her property in Detroit and her all of her automobiles under that will. So he's going to benefit from that. But that was the contention, and there are lots of lessons to be learned there.
Yeah. Well, the first question that came to my mind was the issue of a notary. From a commoner's standpoint, I know a lot of people think if something is notarized, then that carries a legal force behind it that is unimpugnable, and that's just not the case, is it?
Well, that's right. That's not the case. What a notarization is, it's very, very useful and very important. But the notary's job is just to verify that the signature on that document was the signature of that person. So they verify essentially their job is to verify the identity of the person signing the document. Notaries are also trained to make sure that if it's a form that all the blanks are filled in and certain things, just to make sure that it's harder for someone to go back and to alter a document later. But the main job, really the function of a notary, is just to acknowledge, to verify someone's signature is that person did sign it. It carries no legal effect whatsoever, other than that.
And related to that is the issue of authenticity, whether a notary's notification is there or not. And the second one that was found under the couch cushion had some questions about the signature, and when you get to these situations, the handwriting becomes a really, really important aspect, does it not?
That's true. You want to make sure, of course, that it was the person that wrote it, that in this case, Aretha Franklin, the testator, the person that writes a will, that this was her handwriting and her signature. Now, that was something that everybody agreed on at the hearing, okay, that both of these documents that were handwritten were written by her and signed by her. There was the contention about whether the second one was a valid signature, which didn't get very far. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's number one thing is this, did the person write and sign this? And if they did, then it can be, and it appears Michigan law is about the same as Pennsylvania when it comes to what we call holographic wills. A holographic will is one that is written and signed by the person, not a handwritten will, not one that's typed up or drafted by an attorney.
Third question that comes to my mind is not a question, but a simple statement, and that is that all of this could have been avoided by visiting an attorney and doing things the proper way and making sure this is all buttoned up.
Well, I think the sad thing here is that, by all accounts, Aretha Franklin was a private person, and one of the reasons that she didn't seek out legal help, and her personal attorney apparently testified to this, was that she didn't want to share her family details or all the details regarding her estate with anybody, even a lawyer. And so, that's the sad thing, is that she desired for her life to remain private. And the fact that she didn't take the necessary steps to create a formal will has thrown her entire life into the, even more than it already was, this aspect of her life into the public sphere. And it's drug out. She died in 2018. The contest was filed in 2019, and here we are in 2023 getting a decision which hopefully resolves it. So, exactly what she didn't want to happen is what happened.
Yeah. Okay. So those were what stood out to me, but you have an attorney's perspective on it. What are some of the other lessons that we should take from this?
Well, I think the biggest one is don't wait. Right? You can tell that she had an illness for quite a while, and she'd been thinking about these things, but hadn't taken that step to have a will formally drawn up. And then toward the very end of her life, in her last months, she realized that's what she needed to do, and hence those voicemails that she left for the estate planning attorney. And by then it was too late, and she passed away, weeks later, I think it was, and never got it signed. So, the big thing is don't wait. People, it's a very natural thing to put off estate planning, to put off end-of-life matters, because none of us likes to think about it, and we don't like to talk about it. But it's really something that needs to be dealt with sooner than later, so that you can move on and say, okay, I've got that done, and now I'm set, and I can move on with the rest of my life, and I don't have to think about it anymore.
Now, in Aretha Franklin's case, there probably are tons more considerations because of her career and her possessions and the various entanglements that she may or may not have gotten herself into legally. But for the average guy like me, or somebody else who is dealing with the idea of end-of-life issues, and we want to make a will, it doesn't have to be that complicated a process, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not. I think that's another reason. We've talked about this, Todd, is why people put off estate planning. And not only do you not want to deal with that reality, people also think that it's going to be a really complicated endeavor to do that. And to those folks, I encourage you just to reach out, whether it's me or another attorney, and just sit down and have that initial consultation. And really, things can be simplified. Every client's different, and there are issues to work through, but it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be painful. You just have to get the process started.
Yeah, okay. So to start that process with Marshall Chriswell, what do folks need to do?
You could call my office, number 724-465-5826. You can stop and see us. We're in the R&P Cole Building, 655 Church Street here in Indiana, or go online then there's information on there regarding estate. We handle, probate, real estate, family law matters. That's www.westernpalawyer.com.
Beautiful. Marshall, thanks for being with us today. Enjoy this hot week and stay safe.
Hey, you too. Thanks, Todd.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com.